the same. We are all the same.
Of Rats and Boys by Jordan J. Copyright 2025 Oversol Ventures, LLC. All rights reserved. Published by Oversol Books and Comics, a division of Oversol Creations, LLC, an Oversol mature imprint. This book is dedicated to the ones who actually listened. Chapter 1. Tick, Tock. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The classroom's hanging clock slowly moves toward 7:59 a.m. Tick, tock. 1 minute left. Outside, a thick blanket of clouds smothers the morning sun, leaving the windows shrouded in gloom. What should be a vibrant haven for eager learners is instead an echo of neglect, with the walls' paint flaking like a poor costume, unable to conceal the dreary gray beneath. Steel chairs and desks, scratched and weary from a decade of service, sit in predetermined rows, never to be moved, nor cleaned if the hardened gum underneath them is any indication. A little gray rat emerges from the wall, its tiny paws silent as it scavenges the dirty floor. It finds a treat by the teacher's table, a half-eaten piece of chocolate, gnashed with toothy bite marks that look like it came from a hungry walrus. Its own gut grumbling, the rat prepares to claim its rich breakfast. Tick, tock. The hanging clock finally strikes 8 a.m. The shrill bell slices through the stillness of the classroom, echoing like a death alarm in the scuttling rat's ears. A tide of young teens surges into the room, the floor creaking against their wild energy. Girls chatter excitedly about the Rachel hairstyle, while boys laugh and scuffle each other to the ground. Amid their youthful disarray, the rat frantically scurries across the floor, its eyes darting as the students finally spot it. The girls shriek as the boys leap into action, trying to stomp on the rat as it zigs and zags for life. In stark opposition, two 13-year-old boys sit apart from the frenzy, anchored in their seats as little islands in the storm of noise, simultaneously part of the chaos and completely removed, observing the lively clamor around them with an air of quiet detachment. On one island is a black kid named Beck Lewis, the big fat boy of the class. However, he wouldn't hurt nobody, nor dare to. His gentle but anxious nature unveils itself through the soft contours of his baby-like face. When he speaks, his small lips part slowly, while his heart beats with sharp throbs, always worried that something could and will go wrong. Always avoiding direct contact, Beck's large, doe-like eyes often retreat to the floor, as if the tainted ground holds a secret only he can understand. Propping his chin on his desk, Beck watches the frantic rat scuttle back into its hideaway, barely dodging a stomping slaughter. Beck shifts his gaze to his friend Lenny Miller, the classroom's sole white boy. Lenny's brows are perpetually furrowed, casting deep shadows over his piercing eyes, which flash with anger at the slightest provocation. A tight-lipped frown often settles on his clenched jaw, as if the very act of smiling is a betrayal. His heart feels like a coil, wound so tightly it might snap with the smallest movement. Even in silence, his expressions convey a storm of emotion, a volatile mix of frustration and resentment. Putting his battered hood around his face, Lenny watches outside through the grimy window. Even with the muted sky and near-absent sun, one truth is inescapable for Lenny. At least the outside world ain't middle school. Lenny's dreamy gaze begins to fade, forcibly drawn back to the drab, suffocating space of the classroom, where the oh-so-carefree classmates get to him like nails on a chalkboard. Damn loud assholes, Lenny thinks. Fuck them. Lenny gnashes on his pencil, his mind adrift like a ship lost at a stormy sea, before unleashing a flurry of aimless scribbles on his desk. No words emerge, no drawings take shape, just lost, tangled-up lines, each one a whisper of his muddled thoughts. Suddenly, the pencil's lead point gets snapped like a broken neck. Lenny didn't mean to. Fuck, Lenny groans. Without a second thought, Beck lifts his head and offers Lenny his own pencil. Here you go, Lenny. The boys can't form the words, nor would they, especially not Lenny, express such emotions to a male friend. Still, Beck, always unwilling to look people in the eye, manages to calmly focus on Lenny's. And with a deep breath, Lenny cracks Beck a tiny, sincere smile, one that no one else is allowed to witness. Thanks, Beck. But the boy's tranquility is short-lived, as it often is. Suddenly furious, Lenny lashes out, his hand flailing towards Beck. Shutting his eyes tightly, Beck braces for the shocking impact. Utter darkness, but no pain. Beck opens one eyelid to find a shiny red ball, barely an inch away from his nose. His eyes shift to Lenny's trembling fingers, almost clawing their way into the ball. Both boys look over to see Matthew Watkins at the end of the room, hopping up and down in his overpriced graphic tee. The boy waves callously, signaling to throw back the ball, oblivious to Lenny's strong urge to retaliate with an ass-kicking. Beck's heart pounds in time with Lenny's angry huffs. In a swift motion, Lenny hurls the ball towards Matthew's head. With his two left feet, Matthew dives in to capture it, but misses and falls on his butt with the grace of a drunk jackass. Laughs erupt throughout the classroom, with Michael hiding his red face under his bucket hat. For Beck and Lenny, amusement is muted, just a relieved sigh mingled with a disappointed scoff. Beck knows someone could have gotten hurt, and Lenny had hoped to at least see a bloody nose. Sorry about that, Matthew, Beck quietly thinks. Fuck, I hate school, Lenny utters loudly. Beck looks back at his friend, trying to lighten the mood. I know, Lenny, but you gotta go to school if you want to get a good job when you're older. Lenny sits back in his steel chair, which is so cold that it makes his ass feel like it's sitting on an ice cube. My future ain't worth the bullshit I gotta go through in this shithole. Lenny's voice drips with disdain. Besides, if I have to hear that fat bitch say, "Aren't men just terrible?" one more fucking time, I'ma lose my shit. Right on cue, the walrus, no, their teacher, Ms. Fawn, or as Lenny enjoys calling her, Blubber Belly Bitch, waddles into the room, setting off muffled giggles from the classroom. Her puke-yellow dress stretches like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon across her whale of a stomach, inflated with secret regret. With each step, Ms. Fawn waggles and wobbles to her table with the grace of a Hugh manatee. Beck notices her step onto the nashed chocolate she dropped yesterday, unknowingly turning into a chocolate-smearing waltz, leaving a poopy trail on the floor. And with bated breath, Lenny waits for her catchphrase. Aren't men just terrible? Ms. Fawn half-playfully asks. Lenny annoyedly drops his head on his desk, while Beck, eager to keep the peace, forces a weak chuckle for his teacher. Some students indeed genuinely laugh, others quietly groan in second-hand embarrassment, and a few sneakily snicker at Ms. Fawn's floppy knees. Lenny, still face first on his scribbly desk, can only grumble. Blubber Belly Bitch seriously needs to get laid. Come on, cheer up, Beck whispers. We still have recess.
We were born with a fire, but the world don't care. They want us to burn, to vanish, to tear. So we fight through the night, we fight through the pain, but the sun keeps rising and we're still the same. We're just shadows in a land of the lost, where they count our lives by the bodies they toss. But if you walk with me, we'll make it through. 'Cause I got your back, I'll be right with you.
Of Rats and Boys, physical book available on Barnes & Noble, and ebook formats available on Coffee, audiobook version coming soon.